Welcome to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with Simone and Olivia Canego, making the world a better place one conversation at a time. Mom Simone and daughter Olivia share authentic discussions about everything under the sun, including those things you might be thinking about but feel uncomfortable talking about. Thanks for tuning in. Now here are your hosts, Simone and Olivia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. I'm Simone Canego.
And I'm Olivia Canego.
And today we are going to be talking about seasonal depression. But before we go there, I want to acknowledge what's happening in our world right now. I don't want to get political about anything at all, but I just want to say that our hearts are with everybody that's been affected by the war in Israel and that we are watching it very closely. We have a lot of family there, and it is really heart-wrenching to see what's happening. So starting there.
Yeah.
But to our topic of the day.
I feel like it's very fitting considering that this week is like the first cold week of New York. In my opinion, I'm sure some people out here are like, what do you mean it's cold? It's 60s and 50s. But this is like cold for me. I took my AC unit out of my window. The heating has actually started to turn on again. So I feel like that's the first sign is, I don't know if you know this actually, but New York City law is that everyone has heating. So we never have to pay for it, but that means we're not in control of it. So once it hits below a certain temperature, I actually don't know what that temperature is. It'll turn on.
And like, can you turn off the unit for the house at all or no?
No.
For the apartment?
I have no control over it.
So if you're too hot, you just have to open your window.
Yes, that is why most of my winter, my window is open but it's also, okay, it's great that we don't have to pay for heat. Like in the end of the day, my bills in these months are so low compared to my summer like AC bills that it balances out.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so
my radiator's very noisy.
The heater's noisy?
Yeah.
Is it like one of those old school, like built into the wall kind of thing? Oh, okay.
And it wasn't noisy until the landlord came last year to fix it. And then he made it noisy. I was like, you didn't fix it. It was fine. Like
he broke it instead.
I was like, what? Okay, whatever. Yeah.
So I live in Florida. When I was little, I lived in Buffalo, New York, but I haven't lived anywhere other than Florida in a very long time. And so, you know, my struggles are my struggles. So when it comes to anxiety, definitely, but I have never experienced seasonal depression. And I think I would. I really think that I'm so used to having sunshine every day. Today was cold in Florida. Now, this was hilarious, actually. I know we are in fall, but our version of cold, it was like 70 or something. And your sister and I went and had lunch and we sat outside and I was cold. I was like, I wish I would have brought my sweatshirt. And as we were going around, and it's cloudy too. So it's like, I can see like if you had this day in, day out, that it would be really hard to handle, especially for me. But so I had to go mail you something. So I'm going up to the UPS store and there's a woman with a sweater, jeans, and boots. And I'm like, it is 70.
But you know what? It's no different up here. People do not know how to dress for the weather up here. It'll be 65 degrees and you'll see people like me when I go to my workout classes. I don't put leggings on. I don't know why. I just like my
What do you wear?
I wear my bike shorts. I don't wear my leggings.
Okay.
I just find it easier to move in, but I do that with the sweatshirt on top. And it'll be like 65, like sweatshirt on top is like A, so you won't see how sweaty I am after class. And B, like keeps you a bit warm. But then you'll see people in the jeans, in the like people pulling out their Canadian Goose jackets already and like the whole scarves. So it like I always thought it was just so funny growing up seeing the people with their like winter jackets out in Florida, but they do the same here.
Yeah, I guess it's what you're used to. I mean, there's a quote that says there's no bad weather. There's only, bad outfits or something like that. Like if you're not prepared for the weather. And I feel like that's me. Like I'm going to California this week and I was looking at the weather and it's going to be 50 at night. And I'm like, okay, I gotta bring the poof coat. Like there's no way I will handle that. Yes.
I don't know why. I think last winter, I don't want to say it was relatively mild, regardless if it's mild or not, I still get pretty bad seasonal depression. But last winter, I don't think I pulled out my coats as much. I also don't think I left the apartment as much, which definitely affects my sad.
Right. I mean, you tell me. So, I mean, how have you experienced it and what have you done that helps? What have you done that didn't do
So
anything?
freshman year was a bit tricky to see if it was seasonal depression or just like depression of being in college because of COVID, or like not because of being in college, but college during COVID. It was a huge transition period. And obviously, like a lot of the things that normal college students were able to do, we weren't. So a lot of my meals I spent eating alone, which obviously, as a freshman and you're trying to make friends, isn't great for your mental health. But for me, it really comes when the days start getting shorter. Um, and a lot of the time it's like the days are shorter, the weather is cold, I stay inside and I isolate myself. And I don't know, it's really difficult to then get out of that cycle of just wanting to stay in bed. And there's nothing really incentivizing you to go and fix the issue, because what are you going to do? Go outside? It's freezing.
Well, you have to go outside sometimes, right? I mean, you have to get to school.
But
you have to.
With my schedule this semester, I only have to technically, I do leave the apartment more than this. I had already left the apartment today, just so you know. I only have to leave my apartment on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And my walk to school is 3 minutes.
So, but you do leave.
Now
yes.
I do.
Okay.
Well, I think, so freshman year kind of like was like, also freshman year, I didn't necessarily experience it to its full extent because we went home in November. So I didn't, and then we came back in February. So the peak months where I really experienced it are like late November, December, and January and Feb. And then like that year, it was a mild winter. I was wearing like tank tops in March, which doesn't happen. But the next year is when I really started to notice like seasonal depression affecting me. And I started to skip my classes, even though I was on campus. I really just like couldn't get out of bed. My motivation to do anything was gone.
Did you eat differently?
I think in the fall, I generally eat differently. Well, that sentence wasn't going to make sense, but yeah, I guess to an extent, but also, like we've talked about this on last episode in terms of like dietary habits and like not cooking. I'm always cooking, like even when I am upset or just depressed, because it's my hobby. I do bake a lot more when I'm depressed, which means I eat a lot more sweets, which is not necessarily a good thing.
But delicious.
Yeah, I made snickerdoodle cookies last night. Not because of seasonal depression. That's because
she's not there yet.
It felt like the first day of fall, and I was like, oh, I need some cinnamon in the house.
That's cute.
Yeah. It's not fun. I don't think anyone would describe it as fun. It's something that you have to realize affects most people. So you're definitely not alone. And it's kind of hard to like articulate why you're feeling this way, because like having a force like the weather control the way you feel is kind of, I don't know, it takes a lot of the power you have in yourself out of yourself.
Do you sleep more? I guess if you're not leaving your house, you definitely sleep more.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a big nap person though. So I never nap. I kind of just like will go to bed earlier. Like once the sun's down, I'm like, okay, the day's up. And in my so I'm in the same apartment as junior year in my sophomore year apartment. In both of those, the living room does not have direct sunlight. Only bedrooms had windows. So that also definitely affects it. Because I mean, I have worked with my psychiatrist and my therapist to come up with like coping mechanisms to help. And before, I would just find myself sitting in the living room in the dark a lot, or like with fluorescent lighting. And unless it's like those UV sunlights, which I do have, which has totally made a difference, by the way, the sun lamps, whether that's like psycho in my brain or not, I don't actually know.
No, there's real data behind it.
Yeah, I just like feels nice. Like it makes me more awake for sure. But yeah, before I was kind of just sitting in the living room, and a lot of the times I would keep my blinds closed. And that's kind of what I've made, honestly, just more of an active effort in general, just to keep my blinds more open throughout the year, because I think it like helps my sleep schedule, just like knowing when it's dark and when it's not, because I have like blackout curtains.
You're like a baby.
Yeah.
You
I
gotta,
am
you
a
gotta,
baby, though. A little bit.
yeah, you gotta open up the blinds first thing in the morning and then close them
Yep.
when you go to bed.
That is exactly what I
Yeah,
do. I
yeah.
open up the first thing I do when I wake up. It's not even check my phone anymore. I roll over and I open the blinds.
Mm. Yeah,
But it's just for me, like it comes down to little coping mechanisms to help you make it through it because it is in the winter for me just making through it. Which is hard though, because the fall and the winter are my favorite seasons. I want to say I just love the spirit of fall and the spirit of like Christmas, which
right.
is in the holidays.
And everything's so decorated
Yeah.
there and it's
When
so
January comes along,
pretty.
no, that sucks. Don't get me wrong. But the first 3 months, like October, November, December, these are probably like my favorite months of the year. But it's also like that I'm struggling with not wanting to leave my apartment and then, or just not even wanting to leave my bed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have that here. I mean, we know I have insomnia, but when in the mornings, I want to get up. I want to get out of bed. I don't feel it's so sunny all the time here.
Yeah.
There's very few days. And like I said, today being one of those days that isn't sunny, it kind of, was a reminder for me that, ooh, I would really struggle if I lived somewhere that was cloudy all the time. I mean, I think about people in Washington State, how that
Yeah.
has to be really difficult. And I mean, there's lots of places that don't get as much sunlight as others, but I love the fact that I have sun most days, even when it's miserably hot. I still appreciate the fact that we get the sunlight here.
Yeah. I think when you're also working, so obviously my schedule this semester has been like the loosest schedule that I've had since starting college. Like I'm doing a couple of online like asynchronous classes and then I stacked my schedule. I'm not working. I'm just like babysitting here and there. And well, I'm doing a lot of yoga, but especially when you have that 9 to 5 schedule or like that class schedule where you're not getting out until the sun is down, your day is over. Even if it's 4 p.m., you're getting out of class, but the sun's down. Like, what are you going to go and do? It kind of just shifts the whole mood in the environment.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing because even here in the winter, like probably 6 o'clock is when maybe there's some days that are 5:30 where when the sun goes down. And it does like bring you back to times where you would go to sleep at sunset and you would get up with the sunrise, right? Back in the olden days. I'm not talking about like for us now, but
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, what are you doing after, well, I don't want to say after 5:30, but in the evenings, once it's dark, what are you doing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing
It
homework,
actually,
but
this is completely unrelated. Well, kind of related. In one of my marketing classes, we were talking about how a lot of like in-person retail stores have to deal or have to come up with strategies to deal with winter changes because people don't want to do anything after work. So like they won't go and do some light shopping after work. They won't even go and pick up like groceries, just go home.
that's so interesting,
Yeah,
right? But I see it. I was like, oh, it's nighttime. I'm going home
for
instead of
sure.
like it's only 5:30. Like I can still do all these things. It's not like,
Yeah.
it's bedtime, but it does give you a different thought process and a different feeling too. Like you don't feel like as energized at night to do the stuff when it gets dark so early. So 4 o'clock it gets dark there in the winter.
Maybe 4:30, but like that's like peak winter is when it
Yeah.
starts getting that dark. Wait, has daylight savings happens yet? I'm so out of whack with like everything happening in the world. So
No, I don't remember when it happens. Maybe in the next couple of weeks. So
okay.
Florida
Yeah.
for a while was trying to not continue on that, but it didn't get voted through. So
Let's
we have to do daylight savings.
um yeah, Florida, I don't necessarily understand why it happens, but like I get it up here.
Yeah, I mean, we have during the summer. I mean, we have daylight until 8 o'clock, 8:30,
Mhm.
sometimes close to 9. Winters 5:36, and then it just gets better from there. But
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, we have bigger issues to worry about than should
Then
we
it's
turn the clocks back an hour or not. But
yeah.
it's people get really riled up about it. They're very opinionated about
Well, I
it,
don't
and
even know
they,
why people care anymore. Like everything automatically changes except my microwave.
yeah, it's true.
I don't
I'm
even
like,
think
oh,
about it. I
I know, I
literally
don't.
don't even think about it until, oh, something's wrong with the microwave. And then I remember, oh, Probably daylight savings happened. Like the microwave wouldn't just change its time.
It's funny because before the iPhone, or even maybe at the beginning, it didn't do the automatic updates
Yeah.
for time. And so there were times where we missed things like religious school one morning or something like that because we were like, oh no, it doesn't, we totally forgot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what time is it? It's 11? No, I thought it was 10, and no,
Yeah.
nope, you missed that. You missed that. But let's talk. So since we brought up Florida, let's go to my freaky Florida for this
Florida,
week.
yeah.
This one is actually just funny, ridiculous Florida. Okay. Man, 77, meant to sell ill-gotten erectile drugs in sprawling Florida retirement community, feds say. So basically, it's in the Villages.
I was just about to say, was it in the Villages?
The Villages has lots of stories.
Fun
I guess
fact
it
is that besides FSU, the Villages has the highest rate of STIs in the state of Florida.
I think it's gone down because they've made it so well known that it was an issue. So people are starting to pay attention. But this is a retirement community, right? So here's the story. Federal authorities have arrested a 77-year-old man for allegedly buying more than $1,800 in erectile dysfunction drugs without a prescription and intending to sell them in the massive Central Florida retirement community, the Villages, and elsewhere. The man was arrested in the Villages where he lives alongside nearly 80,000 full-time residents, and which was featured in the 2020 documentary, Some Kind of Heaven. That's what they called this community. The defendant has pleaded not guilty to the misdemeanor charge and agreed to have his case heard before a magistrate judge instead of a jury. If convicted, he faces up to a year in federal prison and a fine up to $10,000. So he got them through interstate commerce. That's how he got the drugs. And they were misbranded because the man obtained them without a valid prescription, according to federal authorities.
But how did he even get them, though?
I don't even know. Whether there's a will, there's a way. I mean,
But like,
Villages...
can you fault him? The hustle is real.
Can you what?
Can you fault him? It's a hustle. He's hustling.
Oh, it's a hustle. And this is the last paragraph of this news article. The Villages is no stranger to stories about the sex lives of its residents. Rumors about swingers, public sex, and high rates of sexually transmitted diseases have swirled around the retirement haven for decades. But I guess there's a report that came out last year that said the 3 counties containing the Villages tended to have significantly lower rates of sexually transmitted diseases compared to Florida overall. So, it was made known that it was such an issue, but
yeah, so that's good. But also compared to Florida, all gives me no hope. Everything had its own strand of chlamydia. Like, what are we talking about? Like, where is it compared to everybody else?
Right. No, they're not comparing it to everyone else. They're comparing it to just to Florida. But I was like, yeah, who knows exactly? I'm sure there's other articles that would give more detail on how he actually got them. They were misbranded. Okay, whatever. And so I'm curious. So if he had $1,800 worth of them, because I think they're pretty expensive. So like, is he doubling the price? Is he going like door to door and saying, I have your fix? I mean, I'd like to see that sell.
There's there are drug dealers in every community. Regardless,
we're talking erectile dysfunction drugs.
Well, what else would they be smoking there? Like you're telling me, maybe they're smoking grass. I kind of doubt they're doing any hard drugs besides erectile dysfunction medication. But then it's also just like, damn, can you believe that there's that high of a demand for it?
Yeah, it's hilarious. This is a retirement village, 80,000 people. Counties? I guess so. It's big. It's a big place. I have no idea.
Do you know anybody who lives there?
I don't know anybody who lives there, and I definitely have no desire to move there. It might be a beautiful place. I've never been, so who am I to judge anything?
I've never been either. Just this kind of mythical place in my head where just all the old people go.
The lure of that is not for me. Like, oh yes, come here and you can have sex all day long.
I described growing up, and it literally is just like a sex party.
Yeah, so funny. Anyways, okay, that's enough about that. But I thought that was a fun one. I was like, okay. This is, he's, and I don't know, did I say how old the guy was? Like, so 77. So, imagine hustling at 77 with erectile dysfunction drugs, hey, everybody's got to make their money.
I guess.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So back to reality, back to what we were talking about before. So
thinking about retirement communities and it being in Florida, I would say a big reason people move is the winter. And maybe it's not directly seasonal depression, but it's all of the extras that come with having a winter, like having to shovel your driveway, which luckily I don't have to do, changing the tires on your car. Having to have 2 separate wardrobes is insane. I have 2 separate wardrobes.
Yeah. And having to like be careful how you walk. And you know, I'm sure in the cold when you have arthritis, the pain is worse. I don't know that for sure. I'm not a doctor and I don't even play one on TV, but I would imagine that would be bad, right? Like, so I can see why they come to Florida, and seasonal depression might be part of it too. But for a lot of older people, it's many factors combined.
Yeah.
But I want to go back and talk about treatments, because obviously it's seasonal, right? So, but they, you know, and again, we're not doctors, but they do talk about medication really helping, and also the light therapy. But it's not like you just go and get a light bulb. Like, it's very specific.
Yeah. So it's not at my apartment. It's actually in Wisconsin. I need to steal it back.
Good idea. You're going to need it.
Yeah. So it's a UV lamp, and it has a timer on it. So you set it for the amount of time. I think I usually do 15 to 30, depending on what's going on in my schedule. And it's just like, it's doesn't offer you like the tan, I guess, going out into a sun would, and not necessarily the heat, but the other benefits are definitely there. Like, I feel, I don't know, just better afterwards. And in terms of meds, I mean, I'm on meds year round for anxiety, not necessarily depression, although it treats both. And there was one winter where I tried to go off of it, and I don't know if it was trying to go off of it or the combo of the winter, but it was definitely not a good scenario. But with treatment, it is hard because for me, I had never experienced winter before. So I'd never experienced seasonal depression before, and I hadn't known anybody that had. So I thought it was kind of a me thing. And a lot of the times, and a lot of me realizing in life, a lot of the issues that I think are me things are actually shared. And I think it's a lot, at least for me, it's comforting to know that other people are suffering in the same way you are.
Well, that sounds a little morbid.
Okay, in the same way. But like, I came out as morbid, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not the odd one out here. You're not the only one that's struggling to get out of the bed in the morning. And it's also like a good reason to give people grace. Like, you never know.
You never know. And
all the time, you never know.
You never know what anybody else is going through. It's also, I think it's so important that you talk about these things with other people, because then you're like, not just realizing that you're not alone, but, oh, well, maybe that would work for me. Maybe that treatment would help me. And like, so when I'm reading about the causes of, and they call it seasonal affective disorder. So SAD, sad. Your biological clock, your circadian rhythm is off. And that's because the reduced level of sunlight in the fall. So that could be a reason. Serotonin levels, a drop in serotonin that affects your mood might play a role, and melatonin levels. So again, there's all kinds of factors that could be. And then there's risk factors that go along with it. Not everybody that lives somewhere,
no, of course not,
that doesn't get a lot of sunlight, has SAD, but obviously, if you're living where there's sunlight, you're not going to get it. So
yeah.
But there's a lot of things that can be done, and boy, has it become big business to make these different lamps, right?
Oh, I mean,
there are lamps of all strengths and sizes, and there is like a minimum strength that you need to get, and I don't know what it is, but you can research it. But there's a minimum strength that you have to get to actually for it to be effective. But there's like little ones, like you have a little desktop one. There's like huge ones, like full body ones. And it's pretty impressive. You can make anything into a business, right?
Oh, for sure. But I think it's a tool that's very, very effective.
Do you feel like your roommates struggle with it? Do you feel like your friends struggle with it up there? Is it something you guys talk about at all?
No, honestly.
Well, I mean, your one friend has your light, so
no, but she was using it for an interview. She was
okay
using it for that. But I would say it's a mix. I would say some definitely do and some don't. I honestly think people that were raised in the South tend to suffer from it more, but or maybe it's they just don't have the coping mechanisms that people growing up north developed. Because I mean, for me, I was used to Florida winters, and then my first winter was not like I got thrown into a situation. It wasn't like eased in or anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And when you think about like the differences that each person experiences when you're used to it, I mean, there's sometimes it's easier when you're like, oh wait, this wasn't a bad winter at all, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I don't. I'm trying to think if we talk about it. Kind of.
Do they come in and be like, why are you having that light bulb on your face?
Oh yeah, for sure. But they know. It's like I need my sun, like, and I was raised getting sun like every single day. There was not a day, even if it was raining, the clouds would go away. Like the Florida rain is not consistent. So I don't know. It was just definitely like a weird adjustment.
Yeah, for me, I think the hardest part would be the cold. I mean, yes, I would really struggle with the lack of sunlight because I'm used to it, but it's that idea that it's the lack of sunlight and how cold it is.
Yeah.
I think that's such a big combination that probably leads, really compounds it.
I mean, for 100%, because it's like one of the coping mechanisms that my psychiatrist has talked to me about is like going outside and going on walks. And like, yeah, the sun is still there, but then you have to go outside. And I mean, for me, 40s is freezing.
I would gotta prepare, man.
50 and 60, I'm cold. Like I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now, but I also like I leave my window open all the time so I can get some fresh air in here. So it's not like that cold. But yeah, like the sun is still, at least in New York, the sun is still there for a couple of hours. It's just finding the motivation and the time to get outside during that time period and get the sun in. And it's hard. I mean, I even find it hard now with it not being full on fall yet, just to find the time to go outside. Because I would say in New York, or at least in my area, there's a lot of outdoor spaces. There's not a lot of outdoor spaces that are conducive for working environments. And a lot of what I do right now is homework and schoolwork.
Right.
And so then by the time you're done with homework and schoolwork, the sun is away.
So I just read something right now that I thought was really interesting. I didn't know there actually is a rare form of SAD that happens in the summer called summer depression.
I would assume that it's probably some people are the opposite.
Right.
Which is not me.
Yeah. It starts in the late spring or early summer and ends in the fall. So, I mean, it's just seasonal. So it's not necessarily because it's dark. I mean, there's all these different factors that come into it. And it's a true form of depression. It's not like, oh, I just feel sad. No, it's a true form of depression that can benefit by, behavioral therapy, by, teaching different coping mechanisms, by, it's meds,
not something you can get through alone.
Yeah. I mean,
you'll get through the winter, but will you get through the depression alone? No. And for me, it is not getting through the depression. It's coping, because I know this is something that happens every year. And like, I build myself up for it. Like, have the preparation sort of now.
So what percentage of people do you think struggle with seasonal affective disorder?
75.
Maybe
no, that's high.
That's very high. So it actually says about 5% of adults in the US experience seasonal affective disorder. Really?
Yeah. I would assume it'd be much higher, but I also think that a lot of people suffer from mental health issues and then just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
I love talking about it because I think being transparent with everything is so important. Obviously, like there are some things in my life that I won't be open about, also because it couldn't be triggering to others. But like, I think going into like being like, like I'm on Lexapro and I'm not ashamed of it.
And you shouldn't be ashamed of it. Nobody should be ashamed of being on meds,
Like it makes me a more tolerable human being, not only for myself, but for others around me. Like this is a benefit for all of us.
Yeah. But for so long, there was such a stigma. There was shame associated with anything to do with mental health. Right. So you can see why people don't talk about things, but this is why we need to talk about things, because if you can help one person by sharing your story, you can help one person by sharing what you're dealing with right now, like you're making a difference in the world. right?
Yeah.
And we can't be embarrassed about anything. I mean, there's moments like, that you can be embarrassed for the
you can be
moment, but not
embarrassed
about this stuff.
in a moment, but like not about mental health at all, like, because you can't control it. Like you just
No.
can't. You can do things to help yourself, but in the end of the day, I know that when the hours get shortened, I'm going to be a little depressed, and I just have to cope through it.
Yeah, and there is no shame, and that's a thing that we have to continue to tell people, because for so long it was said in a different way. So when I was younger, like, you did not talk about these things. Imagine with my mother. So we were talking about how, because she has very, very crippling anxiety, like to the point where today she's leaving to go to Switzerland. I don't know if you know that or not, Liv, but she's okay. So she said yesterday she had to have a driver take her to the airport. She's 84. She's not going to drive. And the timing just didn't work. So she said if I could confirm with the driver for her. And I said, yeah, of course. So I confirmed, and I said, okay, he's going to pick you up at 12. She's like, oh, 12. No, that's way too late. And I'm like, what time's your flight? She's like, 4:00. Well, it takes an hour and a half to get to the airport. So she would have 2.5 hours there before. And she's like, no, I need more time than that. I said, okay. Would you like me to ask him to come at 11? And she said, oh yeah, that would be much better. Like, so for her, like, she needs, like, that's her, she has different coping mechanisms for stuff. And obviously I'm not talking about seasonal depression, but I'm talking about anything to do with mental health, that she has her way of dealing with stuff.
I think by not talking about it, especially with that generation, not to be like people don't know what they're feeling, but they don't know how to put the words into it. And so these kind of unhealthy coping mechanisms arrive. Like, I mean, it's affecting no one that she's going to the airport an hour early. Like, who?
Right. It makes her like feel so much better. Like, that's all she needs.
There are ways that, if early in life, that if people like talked about it more, that could have like helped. And honestly, because having anxiety is not fun. Like, the goal is to not deal with it. The goal is to like treat it and get rid of it eventually.
Yeah. So,
and honestly, I will say, in my anxiety journey, I've gotten so much better, so much improvement in my life, just through like medication and honestly talking about it and being open with how I feel, that I get it. I still get it in extreme moments, but it's not every day anymore. And I'm so grateful that it's not every day anymore.
But you know what you need. So for a lot of people, if you don't talk about it, they don't know that they really have anxiety. I think I said this the other day, but I'm going to say it again. And I think we should do a whole episode on anxiety again, because I think that it's such an important topic. I was sitting in my doctor's office, and he said to me, I talk about my insomnia, and like, he's like, I struggle so much with sleep. And he said to me, do you think you're anxious? And I said, no, I'm not anxious. I don't have anxiety. And he's like,
that's delusional.
Simone, you have 6 children. There is no fucking way that you don't have anxiety. And I said, oh my God, you're so right. Like, it literally took like that moment to say, like, think about it. Think about everything that you are dealing with all of the time. Like, you have anxiety. Think about like all the stressors. And I was in my late 40s when he said that. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've created these coping mechanisms for myself, but like, it was really enlightening to think like, okay, you're right. Yeah. And then what was really one of the most interesting things that I found out, and I don't know if I told you this, was with my mom, with your grandma, how I asked her, we were talking about medical school, we were talking about law school. And I was like, so how did you get through medical school being as high anxiety as you are? And she was like, yeah, it wasn't easy. And we had never talked about it before. She's 84. We had never talked about that part of medical school. And I said, so what did you do? And she said she would say this poem before every test. Did I tell you this?
No, you haven't told me this.
Okay. So the poem, I feel like, and I understand like where she was going with it. I feel like the poem kind of beats her down more. But I think that maybe it was to inspire her to say, hey, I deserve to be here. So the poem is, why did you make me, dear God? Why did you waste your time on me? You could have made a tree to shade the tired or a flower to catch one's breath. Why did you waste your time on me? And so it sounds kind of like depressing. I shouldn't say the word depressing. It sounds kind of like but it was a way to remind herself that she's here for a purpose, right?
Yeah.
That she was created to do something special in this world. And so it was more of a way to, again, remind herself like why is she here? This is why she's here. And I was like, how do I not know this? Right? Like we've talked about so many different things, but that was the first time. And she said, well, I'm kind of embarrassed by it. And I said, I think it's inspiring. Right. I talk to myself all the time. So knowing that.
Oh, I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
I am a big talking in the mirror. Like, you got this. Like, you're about to go out and kill that exam.
It's a great coping mechanism. It's a great way to build yourself up. Yeah. I don't like fake it till you make it. I like, you're going to make it, because it's not faking it. You have to talk yourself up. Honestly, because
say it till you believe it.
Yeah. Say it till you believe it, because you are it. Right. I mean,
I first received that advice at like in 6th grade. And I recently was in a coffee chat and had someone say that to me again. Yeah. I was like, because if you keep saying it, like, it's going to come true. Not like the whole manifestation. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, and then I'll do my little story. Yes. Someone was saying that how they got so lucky with their job. And I was like, no, you didn't get lucky getting your job. You worked your ass off to get your job. And they were like, what do you mean? No one's ever told me that before. And I was like, well, like, yeah, like, you wouldn't be working in this position if you hadn't put the effort in. It's not like something just fell into your lap. Like, that's what luck is. It's not luck that you worked your ass off. You paved your way through college and then got a great job after. Yeah.
And people don't see that. That's for another episode, because I have all kinds of stories about that. But yeah.
Okay.
Tell me.
My keeping up with the country. So, a large pig named Fred captured after days of low-level crimes. So this is the first sentence, a sizable and mischievous pig is on track for a new life after spending days disrupting traffic and damaging property in Aurora, Colorado. Fred, as he's now named, he was first spotted September 25th, and the city received its first call about a pig in traffic. Somehow he avoided animal control officers that afternoon and over the next few days. So multiple sightings of him. At one point, he actually gained a lasso around his neck. So someone, not the city, animal control, tried to capture him. They were unsuccessful, as was animal control. But after 4 days of a multi-day crime spree, he was finally captured. And apparently he was being very loud and very dramatic. Did you know pigs are actually very dramatic? It ultimately took 5 animal service employees, 3 park employees, and at least 2 employees to successfully capture him, which involves creating a makeshift alley out of wooden panels and corralling Fred into a trailer. And now he's living comfortably at the Aurora Animal Shelter.
And was he like a regular pig? Like from someone's farm, or was he like a wild pig?
No one has come forward to ID him or claim him, and he has no microchip. So
he must be like a regular pig, not like a...
Yeah, he's just a regular pig, but he's not like... He looks like a farm pig.
Can you imagine seeing that video? Like, I would like to see the video of them capturing him.
Oh, I know.
That many people.
The video of him captured, like the 8 people surrounding this one pig. Apparently it was like 400 pounds or something.
Yeah.
So
how many people does it take to capture a pig?
Right? Yeah, like 7 apparently.
Yeah. Well, no, 8.
I think it's a little bit funny. Is his owner not coming? Is it like a farm owner or someone that runs a farm, and he's not coming forward because he's like, will I have to pay the destruction?
Yes.
Is it worth
keep the pig.
The pig?
Keep the pig.
No, I feel like at that point, it's just keep the pig.
Yeah. That's a good one. There's all kinds of crazy things happening in our country.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our stories are animal related. I mean, obviously mine today was not, but I find the animal ones to be pretty fun. Like we had in Naples, just, hour and a half, 2 hours south of us, there was a black bear spotted on someone's yacht. Like Like, and again, it's probably a sign that we're, how we're destroying the environment and how,
100%.
They're trying to find food.
They deserve to live here too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to hang out on the yacht,
Yeah.
When you find a bottle of champagne, I'm going to lay out right there.
Yeah. The pig story, and this is a little bit gruesome. I don't know if you remember this. Reminds me of high school and that one flood where some butcher truck, like carcasses, not just one, multiple carcasses spilled onto the road. And there was like a 3-hour backup because there were just like pig entrails on the highway.
Yes, it was everywhere. Yeah.
I remember it was like
not good.
9th grade. Everybody was like, oh my God, phones out and everything. I was like, I'm gonna throw up and I'm late to my Spanish test. So this is great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least this pig is now in a nice little center.
Not after public adoption, but trying to be relocated somewhere.
Well, he's a menace to society, right?
He's 400 pounds. Who's going to adopt? Who can't, probably who should?
Right. Well, if he goes to a farm, he'll be eventually eaten, right? So
now he's a public hero.
Exactly. Well, he's a menace to society, but people love that. Yeah, he's a public figure. He's probably going to have his own Instagram account.
It's like the freaking turkey that they save every year.
Yeah.
And that turkey goes back to the farm just to be lined up again.
I know, right?
I don't know if that's true,
I kind of feel like I feel like the turkey goes somewhere else, but turkeys don't exactly live very long lives.
No, so... I think I did research on this one time and they do go somewhere else, but they live for like a year after.
Yeah. It's, it's
whatever. It's a weird little tradition.
Yes. It's a tradition. Okay. What's your calendar telling us today?
Oh, just so you know, not only is it Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day in the United States, it's also Canadian Thanksgiving. I know. Sometimes what we need is to not be easier on ourselves, but to push through that adversity, to hold our own feet to the fire and see what we're made of. I don't like that.
You don't like that one?
Why? Yeah. Do you like it?
Well, I do think that we have to push through things, right? I mean,
but I don't necessarily well, sometimes, I guess sometimes the key word there, it's okay to be easy on yourself. Sometimes people are just way too hard on themselves.
Oh, well, yeah. So there's a difference. I see how you're reading it. I wasn't reading it like that. No, we're too hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do. But sometimes you have to say okay, for you, hey, I'm thinking about applying to law school and I just decided this and I have 2 months to get it all done. Right. You push through, right?
I'm almost done pushing through.
Yeah. So you could have been really say, you know what? I can't do this. So instead you took the hard route and you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get it all done. So I kind of read it in a different way, or I heard it in a different way. But I do agree that we need to be kind to ourselves, right? We spend so much time criticizing ourselves and comparing ourselves to other people, and I'm getting a lot of clarity on my book now with this, which is great. So, really helpful.
Good.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think we have accomplished our episode on seasonal depression. Now, I think that in the future, we should bring on an expert to discuss it because, we are not experts. We are not doctors. We're just talking about her experience with it. And again, I haven't experienced it, but I've seen her go through it, and I did buy her the light. I did buy her this special lamp, and I do think it helps. And, it's all about self-care, guys. We got to really continue to focusing on taking care of ourselves so that we can move forward and be the good in the world. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with Simone and Olivia Canego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Daughter Dearest Podcast, at Simone Canego, and at Olivia Canego. Till next time.